morning. This is VirtualPBX-admin training. Going to give people another minute or so before I really dive into it. This is VirtualPBX-admin training. If you are a vConsole customer, we are no longer doing the live trainings for the vConsole product. You can find the recording trainings on our website. So go to virtualpbx.com, mouse over support, and select vConsole support. Scroll down about a third of the way down, and then you'll see the recorded trainings there. And below that, you'll see the various guides for the various vConsole features. Likewise for Dash, we do have this training recorded. You can find the similarly recorded training on the Dash support pages, and below that, you'll see the guides for the various Dash features. And since you're watching this on YouTube, we do have these recorded and kept on YouTube as well, so you can see previous week's trainings or watch this one later if you don't have time to watch the entire training right now. All right, let's go ahead and dive in. You should be seeing our Dash login page, which is just dash.virtualpbx.com. To log in, you use your email address, password, which should have been emailed to you, and then the account name, typically your company name. Now, if you just signed up, you should have gotten an email with your login information. And for customers who've been upgraded to Dash from vConsole, you also should have gotten an email. If for some reason you did not, or you can't remember the password or what have you, you can't find the email right away, you can always click on the Forgot Your Info link here. It's going to ask you for your email address and then either one of your company phone numbers or the account name. And then it will email you a password reset email. You click on the link, create a new password. When you do that, the system will log you back out, so then you can log in with your new password. But in any case, once you have your login information, I would suggest click on the Remember Me and then click on Sign In. Now, on this account, it's been around a while. It's my test account. So I'm getting sent right to the dashboard. When you first log in for the very first time, you're actually going to be taken to a page that looks like this. Now, this is your personal account information. So you can change your email address, your password, and your time zone. Now, over here on the left, you also have the account level settings. And I have this because I'm an admin. So this is where you would change the time zone for the entire account. Now, also on your live accounts, you'll have another section down here for your billing information. So this is where you would update your credit card. For example, you could see your plan information, or at least your plan type, I believe. And I believe you can get your invoices here, although I haven't seen that since I have a test account to look at. Also, on your first login, the Dash wizard will pop up to walk you through what these things are and what you can do here. When you're done, you click on this close button here, and then you'll be here on the dashboard. So I'll start up here at the top, right? So on your name here, this is where you go back to those account pages, which I was just showing you. Then you should have this little question mark icon. You've got a chat option, which will take you to our support team, so you can ask for help as you're going through the pages. You've got a link here to go to all the support pages. So again, you can look up the particular feature you're looking at to say, wait, what does this do, kind of thing. Over here, you've got a link to the online store. So this is in case you want to order a weight phone or a headset or a router, that sort of thing. And then lastly, the web phone link. Now, the web phone link only shows up once you've added a web phone to your user. And the web phone is simply a type of cell phone that lets you use Chrome or Firefox to make and receive calls. And we'll get into how to add one in a little bit here. Next, we've got the 3 horizontal line icon. This is getting you to other Dash features. Some of the features, like ACD queues, have a fee associated with them, and I'll try to point that out as we go through them. Some of these are not fully available yet, and I'll also denote that. And then this is the logout icon. Oh, you also may have a DND icon, do not disturb. That allows you to flip your user into do not disturb mode, i.e. calls that would come to you go straight to voicemail. Although there is some talk of removing that, as some customers don't seem to like that. What we have left, we have your navigation through major features of your the baseline Dash account, right? So that basically everyone has, no matter what. And then we'll go in here to the middle here. So total users, these are all the people who are on your account. They typically are making and receiving calls. Depending on your plan, just a minute. Sorry about that. So depending on your plan, adding users may increase your bill, so that's something to be aware of. Down below, we have the breakdown of your devices. So this account has 56 total devices for my 28 users. And I have a breakdown here of cell phone, pretty self-explanatory. Web phone, as I mentioned earlier, again, web-based soft phone application, essentially, this subtype of a soft phone. Soft phone, software application, on a computer, tablet, laptop, even a cell phone, basically uses your internet connection to make and receive calls. SIP phone is a physical VoIP phone, right? So VoIP stands over Voice over Internet Protocol. SIP does stand for the Session Interface Protocol, so it's a particular subtype of VoIP phone. So if you go into your computer store, electronics store, what have you, you'll see like they'll probably have a VoIP phone section. You want to make sure it is SIP compliant or SIP compatible, right? SIP. And that will work with us. There are other kinds of VoIP phones, and they typically will not work with us unless you can change like some of them have firmware updates that you could use that would make them SIP compatible. But that's another layer of complication that some people don't want to get into. And then lastly, I have a landline. Now, unregistered, I have 17 devices here that are unregistered. What that means is the system says, hey, I can't reach these devices, meaning we can't send a call to them, we can't receive a call from them. Typically, that's for the VoIP phones. All right, total numbers, this refers to the total number of phone numbers on the account. Now, these phone numbers are what your customers dial to get to your system. I have 45. Your plans are going to include anywhere from 1 to 15 phone numbers as part of your plan price, right? I.e., they're included, they're free. Once you go over that, you'll have a per phone number charge per month. That's anywhere from $199 to $499 per month per phone number. Again, that depends on your plan. And then we got a breakdown here. Assigned numbers, that means I'm using those numbers. I have currently 45. You can also have a note here for spare numbers, meaning they're on your account, but you're not using them. So spare numbers, basically they ring busy, whereas your assigned numbers ring to someone or something. Down below that, I also have a breakdown between USDID and US toll-free, right? So toll-free 800-888 all the way down to 833. And USDID just means a US local number. So like a number in, say, San Jose, California versus, say, El Paso, Texas. Conference bridges, I have 6. This just means I have enabled conferencing on 6 of my users. That's all that means. Over here to the right, we've got your main numbers. So these are your general numbers, right? The default numbers any of your potential customers could be calling, right? So these numbers all behave the same way. They'll have the same initial routing. Like for instance, they'll have the same main greeting. The conference number, and you can have multiple conference numbers. So this is what people access to get to those 6 conference bridges. Your fax box number, which you can have one of, or your main fax box number. So this is so you can receive faxes. It actually also enables outbound faxing for your users. The company directory, this is a download. This is simply a text file, shows all your users with their extension numbers, right? So basically you can give this to staff so they can say, oh, this is who I need to call if I need to talk to about whatever or transfer to. The soft phone directory is also a download. This works with the VirtualPBX desktop soft phone app. Basically, you download the file, then you upload it into the soft phone app, and you will see all the other staff members who have the soft phone, and you'll be able to see if they're on a call or not. Right? So, and you can, from that directory, you can just click on it and call them directly. The store discount code, basically just for being a Dash customer, you get a discount in our web store. Right, and that's right there. And then lastly here, we've got the account realm. Now the account realm is used for a couple things. One, it's used for outbound faxing. So on Dash, currently faxing is email to fax. You create an email. In the to field of that email, you put +1, right? Area code and the phone number where you're faxing to, little @ symbol, and then your account realm. And then you attach a PDF or a TIFF to that email and hit send. The system, gets the email, grabs just the attachment, and sends that out as a fax to that destination phone number. So, a couple things. When you're faxing out, the system's only going to send out one attachment, right? So one attachment per email. Does need to be a PDF or a TIFF. There's no point in typing in the body of the email because anything in that email that isn't the attachment doesn't get sent. So if you need like a cover sheet, you have to include that in your PDF. Just a minute. All right. So up here at the top, we have the company caller ID. Unfortunately, my streaming software doesn't always show pull downs in the web browser, but you can select any of your main numbers. And then here, the first box is we've got the company caller ID name, also referred to as CNAME. This you can input 15 characters, including spaces and special characters. This is basically what you can have your company name show up as part of the caller ID, right? So you have your phone number show up, and then your company name, up to 15 characters. Now, once you enter text here and click Save Changes, this information gets sent out to the carriers who support the CNAME feature. It takes up to 3 business days for them to update all their servers. Right? We don't control that. That's purely up to them. And then hopefully when you make outbound calls from that point on, your company ID will show up. Now, a couple things to be aware of. Not every carrier supports CNAME, and it's possible your calls can route through one of those carriers, which means your CNAME information will not show up at your destination. Even for the carriers who do support CNAME, it's a very low priority for them, right? Telecom, first priority, connect the call, followed up by the caller ID, and then way, way behind the CNAME information. So they have heavier than expected call volume, say like during election season, that information is probably not going to go through because they want to make sure the call goes through, right? It's still all data. And then obviously if they're having some sort of maintenance or outage of some type, that's also not going to go through. Down below, we've got the company emergency or E911 information. This is, again, associated with this phone number. So basically, it's the default information that gets sent out if one of your VoIP phone users picks up their VoIP phone and dials 911, right? That's the information that gets sent to emergency services. Any changes here, go ahead and you click on Save Changes. Hold music. So on Dash, hold music is defined as after a call has reached a user. And then that user pushes hold on their phone, typically on their VoIP phone. And then this is the file that plays. Now, Dash, you can upload your own file. Right, and you would just find the file on your computer, click here to upload. Dash will accept .wav, .wav, and .mp3 files. You want to make sure you record it in mono, not in stereo, and you want to keep the file size under 1 megabyte. Now, 1 megabyte MP3 is roughly 5 minutes. So that's something to keep in mind there. And that 1 megabyte limit may change. I know it's something our engineers have been working on. But you would click upload, it'll give you a little status bar, and then you would click on Save Changes. Now, hours is actually part of main number, so I'm going to go ahead and click on main number. All right, up here we've got your main company numbers. If you click on it, you'll see them all. If you don't want to use one of them as a main number anymore, so for instance, let's go ahead and click unassigned here next to this 844 number. Now, I've unassigned it from my main numbers. It's still on my account. It's just been moved to a spare number. Right. Now, if I wanted to add numbers, again, I can add some spares. That's that 844. Or I can buy a number, right? Local or toll free. Let's look for a local number. And let us try 775 Northern Nevada. So then you have a selection here. And you can click add. And you can add multiple, right? You can see my cart added one number, but I can keep adding numbers if I want to. I can say, oh, well, I don't really need that one after all, what have you. But then you click on Buy Numbers, right? This is the system verifying the number is still available. And then it's saying, okay, yes, it is. Boom, we're adding it to your account. And now it's a main number. Any place you can add a number, you can buy a new number from. You don't have to add it to your spare numbers and then add it somewhere else. Right? It's just an easy way of putting the numbers where you want them. Now, on these gear icons, you can adjust the caller ID for a number, the E911. You can also do the prepend. Right, so caller ID was just what we were looking at before. Again, you can put the company name here, up to 15 characters, including spaces. And then you can also turn on accepting inbound caller ID name, right? So that way on your phones, you'll see the name of the people who are calling you if they've added that themselves. All right. U911, again, you can have separate addresses for each phone number. And then prepend is for your VoIP phone users. You can add additional text in front of the caller ID, and this will let your staff know what the call might be about, right? So I can say, North NV, right? So for Northern Nevada, for this phone number, save changes, so that way it will let my staff know, okay, this call came in from the Northern Nevada phone number. So then they can adjust their expectations accordingly. Now, a couple of these other messaging is a future feature. It's not fully live yet. It's still going through some testing. But essentially that will allow for SMS texting. And then syncing is just for you to a way to verify that the number's in the right location versus like spare number versus in your main numbers. All right, office hours strategy. So all new accounts start off on 24-hour open office. Most people have custom office hours. If you are a customer who has moved from vConsole to Dash, the upgrade team would have matched your settings from vConsole to here. But for any day of the week that you're open, you put a checkbox, and then you put your open hours in 24-hour or military time, and you just select it from the drop-down menu here. You also have a feature here where you can say, hey, we're closed for lunch, right? So every day we close for lunch at noon, we open back up at 1, or whatever lunchtime hours you want to set. Office holidays, first and foremost, put a check mark here if you are closed for holidays. And then you have the options here to add. First up, single day, right? Just you're closed for one day. Date range, it means you're closed for multiple days. And then advanced, you're closed on a specific date. So here, President's Day, for example, right? When you add any of these, it creates a new row. You give it a name. And then to the right, you put the month and then the date. Right? Date range, like this one here for Christmas. It's what we start on the 23rd, and then we're done on the 26th. One thing to keep in mind about date range, and actually holidays in general, there's no year indicator. So for date range, you want to avoid a date range that includes New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, because the system will basically put you in closed mode all year. So the recommendation is you can have a date range end on New Year's Eve, and then a new date range start on New Year's Day. Or you can just do single day to cover those 2 days. All right, and then advanced is like this one here, retreat, where I'm saying the first Friday in July, we're on a holiday, right? Company picnic. That way you don't care what the actual date is, it's just that first Friday. The system does it automatically. And again, save changes if you make it. All right, now we go to incoming call handling. So this is how all your main numbers are going to handle calls. Notice here, right now I'm on the open hours tab, i.e. what's going to happen during my business hours. You also have an after hours tab, and lastly, a holidays tab. But they all have the same basic option. All right, so first option here is calls come in and they go to the virtual receptionist. Now, if you're a vConsole customer, that's like calls ring to location being the auto attendant. So calls are coming here. You set up the main menu, i.e. the dial pad options that your customers press to navigate through the phone system. And then over on the right, you've got your greeting option. All right. So your main menu options is basically 0 through 9. You can click add route, and then you would have a pull down, which again, my streaming software isn't showing. But you have the default route and then 0 through 9 that you can choose from. and then you're telling it where to go. All right, so let me go up to here. These are all the options, right? So Smart Directory, go to your company directory. You can send it to a specific person. I can send it to a specific call queue. I can send it to a particular phone. I can send it to a media file. One caveat about sending it to a media file, when the media file ends, the call ends. So generally not recommended. But for instance, if you just want a particular announcement made, you can do that there. I can send it to a group, which is the ring group or department. And then I can also send it to a specific voicemail box. All right, over here we've got the greeting types, right? Text to speech, you type it in, you click update, you'll click save at the bottom here, and then save changes. It's computerized robotic voice. You can upload your own file. Again, .wav, .mp3. You want to record it in mono and under 1 megabyte in size. You can choose from existing recordings. Again, the pull down isn't showing, but any recording that you already have on the system will be available. And for customers who were moved to Dash, will have all of your other recordings from vConsole will be listed there. You can record over the phone. Now, by default, record over the phone is meant to be used with a VoIP phone on the system. It's a security feature. If you intend to record from, say, a landline or cell phone, you just need to email our support team, support@virtualpbx.com, and say, I'd like to record a main greeting using an outside line. Support can then open that up. They'll let you know that it is done so, and then you can call in and record over the phone. We do ask that you then let us know when you're done so we can turn that back off because we don't want someone to be able to randomly figure out what your PIN number is and then change your greeting on it. But basically, you call into your main number, you enter in this PIN number, and then the system will guide you through recording on the phone. Now, the PIN number is specific to the time of day, right? So I'm currently in open hours. That PIN number only works during open hours. And then the other caveat is if you have a greeting already in place. So let's say greeting A is currently playing on my main numbers during my open hours. If I call in, I hit this PIN number. When that greeting plays, the system will say, oh, okay, you want to record a new greeting. I record it over the phone. The file name greeting A stays the same. It's just the content just got overwritten by what I just recorded, right? So whatever the original greeting A is, it's gone. It just got overwritten. So that's one thing to be aware of. If you don't have a greeting in place, doesn't matter. Again, you hit the PIN and then walks you through it, and now greeting is there. Professional recording services, we have partnered with Snap Recordings. When you click on that order link, it will take you to their website. They have 80 to 100 voice actors to choose from, both men and women. They have different versions of English. I believe they still have different versions of Spanish and French, so you can do multilingual greetings. They have their own pricing, their own packages, right? So you can do what they refer to as hold treatment, music and then a script in music, etc. And then they'll email you the file when it's completed. They also have an option, I believe, for express delivery or processing, something like that. So it doesn't take as much time for you to get your file. Once you get that file, then you would just upload your own file. All right, and then settings here. This is number of retries on this file. Excuse me. Basically, if someone calls in and they keep pressing 7, which I don't have set as a valid option, right? I'm saying I'm giving them 2 tries, 1 try. So they can misdial once, and then the greeting will play again. Wait, one misdial. Sorry. So after they mess up, since I have a default route here, it's going to send it to the smart directory. Now, if you have a default route, go to like a voicemail or to a user, that can be a problem because of robodialers. So we don't generally recommend a default route any longer. So I would click on the little X here to get rid of that. So now, after that one misdial, the system would say, we did not hear valid entry, goodbye. Obviously, for most customers, I recommend changing this to 2, maybe 3. But basically, that gives people a chance to hear it in case child was screaming in the background or what have you. But your actual customers will press a menu option or an extension number to get to someone. Robodialers can't do that, so they'll just be stuck in the attendant until the number of retries is exceeded or there's no valid entry given. Now, any changes you make here, either on your routes or in your greetings, you click Save, and then you click Save Changes here. All right, so this next option here, call, I'm sending it to Bob. If Bob's not able to pick up, the call goes to virtual receptionist. Right, that virtual receptionist still has the same options that we just went over. So if I click on this, it'll pop it back open. You can see I got the same menu options here, and I'll have the same greeting and play. Now, this is not restricted to just users. You still can send it to a queue, you can send it to a group, you can send it to a media file, you can send it to a specific phone. But the basic idea here is that you're giving a staff member or staff members a chance to answer the call first, and then if no one's able to pick up, then it goes to virtual receptionist where your inbound caller can enter a menu option. Now, the ring time here is 20 seconds. That's just hard-coded into the system. All right, third option here, call comes in. Again, you can send to Bob, like a particular user. You can send to a group, media file, a phone, a queue, etc. for 20 seconds. If they're not able to answer, instead the call is going to a voicemail box. This one does have one additional option, which is all the way at the bottom, which is, hey, go straight to voicemail, right? So don't bother trying to ring anybody, just send the caller straight to voicemail. So that's like if you're on holiday, right? So the company's going to shut down for the holidays, like here, boom, everything just goes to voicemail. We'll call you back when we're back in the office. Right now, your after hours, holidays, and your lunch option would have these same basic options, but the virtual receptionist is going to be different for each one, or can be different, right? You can see I've got a different number of options here. I have the existing recording in place here. So that way you can have, again, different routing options for the time based on the time of day. Likewise, the PIN number for recording over the phone is going to differ for each of these options. All right, main conference number. Again, you can have multiple conference numbers. I can add some spare, or I can just buy a new number. The custom greeting is actually a text-to-speech greeting, but again, you can type in what you want it to say. But basically, anyone who's going to be either moderating or just joining a conference would call this number, and then they'll be prompted to enter in the conference room number. Typically, it's going to match an extension number, and then a PIN number. And the moderator PIN is different than the participant PIN. Now, if you're going to make use of conferencing, you do need to add a conference number first. Then you can enable the conference bridge on the users. It's one thing to keep in mind. All right, main fax box. So you can have one phone number as your main fax box number, right? So this is the number that's going to be receiving faxes in. Now, because this is a test account, I can't edit my fax box. It gives me an error. On your accounts, you can click on Edit Your Fax Box. It's going to pop open a window, and it's going to have two fields. The first field is for an email address of who's going to receive the fax or faxes. The second field is for who can make an outbound fax. Now, if you own your own company domain, you can just put your domain in that second field. That means anyone at your company, right, who has an email address can then send a fax out. Right, so then they just open up an email, or create a new email. Plus, and the two fields, +1, area code and phone number, little @ symbol, and then your account route. And they just simply need to add or attach a PDF or TIFF file. Again, one attachment per email, and the system only faxes out the attachment. It doesn't get the body of the email. The largest file I've been able to fax out is 7 megabytes. That took a little over an hour for that to go through. So just be aware that it can take time for a fax to get completed, just depending on the file size you're dealing with. All right, and then we've got direct inward system access. This is something that, well, it is available, but by default, it's not, right? You would have to ask for it to be enabled. Our vConsole customers may find this useful, or at least reminiscent. What this does, it allows a cell phone or landline user to call into your system. They access this, and then they can make an outbound call. Now, the reason why it's not enabled on new accounts by default is there are fraud concerns. Because basically someone figures out the extension involved and the PIN number involved, they can make outbound calls on your account. So first, you would click on Enable, and then you can edit the settings. So you have a default PIN number, and then you can add an extension. Now this extension is the next one available, right? So when I click Save Changes, what that means is I can call into the main numbers. I can enter in extension 1028, and then enter in the PIN number of 1200. What happens then is I hear dial tone again. I can then enter the phone number I want to actually call, enter that number, call out. The caller ID that shows up is the number I called into, right? So one of my main numbers, even though I'm using, say, my cell phone. All right. Numbers shows the numbers on your account and where they go to. Again, this being a test account, the first 4 here, these are porting attempts that have not gone through, where the rest are actually going to numbers. Spare numbers, again, number I'm not using. Now, if I don't want to keep this number, because I don't want my bill too high, this is an easy way to decrease the bill by a little bit. I can click the box in front of the number. Now I have the option to delete the number. It says, yes, you've successfully deleted the number. Now the number's not there, and now I saved a few dollars on my bill. Now, you have the number here, option here to buy a number, local or toll-free. Just pick the toll-free prefix. You can see the numbers and add it to the cart, and then you would click Buy Numbers. You also have the option here to port the number. So port, it just means you're moving a number from one carrier to another. Right? So say from Verizon to VirtualPBX. This process will guide you through all the steps, but basically what it comes down to is we need a completed and signed LOA, or letter of agency. You can download a blank one through this process here. You can also find a blank one on our website. And then if it's a local number especially, we need the copy of the bill from your current carrier. And you can upload both of those through this process. Once you click submit, those documents get sent to our porting team. They then process a port request. And once we get the documents, we send you an email. You actually probably get two. You get one automated saying, hey, you submitted these documents. You get another one after the people in our porting team actually have looked at the documents. Say, yes, we got your documents, we're processing it now. Or if there's an immediate problem, like occasionally we get like a blank LOA. Right, so that's like, hey, that's not going to work. Can we get the filled out? Some notes about the LOA. it asks for your company information, like your company name, your address. That should match what your current carrier has on file for that phone number. Likewise, it does need to be signed, right? You just can't type in your name twice. The second one does need to have a signature. It can be a digital signature, but it does need to look like a signature. Porting a local number can take anywhere from a day to 6 weeks, depending on the other carrier, and also if there's any kind of problems. Toll-free numbers, usually quicker, anywhere from 3 business days to a week. That's because there's more regulations involved on a toll-free number. If there's any problem with the port request, our porting team will email you to let you know what that was. Now, we don't get the specific. Like, for instance, a common error that comes up is address zip code mismatch. That's all we're told. We're saying there was a problem with the address. We don't know if it was just a wrong digit or if it was the wrong zip code, whatever. That level of detail isn't given to us. In that case, you'd have to go to the current carrier to find out what they have on file. If for some reason when you upload the documents, like the port doesn't look like it's submitted, you can also just email the documents to porting@virtualpbx.com. We'll still accept the documents. We'll still process the port request. Also, for international phone numbers, if you're interested in those, you just want to email porting@virtualpbx.com. We'll need to know the city and country that you're interested in, and then we'll let you know, A, if it's available, and B, if there's other additional requirements. Like Germany, for example, requires proof of presence within the city that you're requesting, like a utility bill, typically enough. All right, users. So, shows all the users on the account, listed in alphabetical order. Click on Add User if you need to add more people. Again, be aware that you're adding more users can increase your bill depending on your plan. Putting their first and last name. The email address used for login is unique to each user. So like if you have 5 people use support@virtualpbx.com as their email address, that won't work for logging in on Bash, right? You'd have to at least like create fake ones like support1@virtualpbx.com so that way each person can log in separately. Then you create a password for them. And then you assign a main extension number to them. Now, on this account, I started with extension 1000. And so now the system is telling me the next available extension is 1028. I'm not limited to that. I can make it extension 5210, 7320, whatever. The system by default will put a check mark here on this first option here, which is create a voicemail box for the user. That voicemail box is intrinsically tied to that user, right? Meaning like if you add a white phone to this user, the little voicemail lamp can light up, for example. It's also when the user picks up their VoIP phone, they can hit *998. That will log them directly into their voicemail box. If you delete the user's voicemail box and then you try to create a voicemail box later, there's no way to make that same intrinsic tie with the user. The only way around that is deleting the user and recreating them. All right, next option here, include in the company directory. Again, you can change this later. Send to an alternate address. This will supersede this email address up here used for login, right? So like, let's say I ended up using the support1@virtualpbx.com, which is not an actual real email address. I can put this user's personal email address instead in this alternate field, so that way notifications and voicemails will get to that person instead of always bouncing at support1. And then last one, probably the most important one in my opinion, send credentials to this user, right? So when you click on create user, the system will then send an email to this person saying, hey, here's your new Dash account, here's your login information. So when you've made your decisions, you click on create user. If you just need to add the one, if you need to add more, create user and add another. Now, You see here, I've got two types of icons. The little blue suit icon, that indicates this person is a system admin, meaning they can do all these changes that we're talking about. Whereas the little gray person icon, that's just your standard user, meaning they have very limited access. If you click on a name, or the name box, you can change their name. If you click on change credentials, you can change their email address as well as their password. Useful feature is right here. You can click on here. This will send the password reset email to that user. All right, so Bob keeps writing his password that I create for him because maybe I'm making them too complicated for him or it's just something he can't remember. I can click here. I'll send the email off to him. He can create his own password that hopefully he will then remember. That way, he'll leave me alone. All right, voicemail box PIN, basically minimum 4 digits. Now, if your staff members are predominantly going to be using VoIP phones, you don't have to set a PIN number for their voicemail boxes because they can just pick up their VoIP phone, hit *98 like I mentioned before. It goes right to their personal voicemail box, and then the system will prompt them to enter in a PIN right there, as well as then ask them to record a voicemail greeting. Basically, set up your voicemail. Now, if your staff is going to use cell phones and landlines, then you do need to set up a number for them. All right, the send alternate address, I have one here. I can also just turn that off if I want to. And then here's the option to include in the user directory. Right, here's the pull down where you can change a user to be an admin or vice versa. Just one thing to be aware of, if you just signed up, this is your first time logging in, you can accidentally change yourself from being an admin to a user. So just be aware of that. Try to avoid doing that. And then here we've got the account time zone, the pull down which you can select to change it if you need to. Then we've got the language option, English, French, German, and Russian are the current options. Ringing timeout, the default for this is actually 20 seconds. This one was set to 45. But basically what this means is how much time we try to reach the devices associated with this person, right? So when a call comes in, they want to go to Bob, it's going to ring his phone for 45 seconds. Then the reason for 45 seconds would be in case Bob is using a cell phone. Right? Routing calls to a cell phone simply takes a little bit more time than it does to, say, a landline or a hardwired VoIP phone, for example. Right? For a landline, for example, your phone company knows exactly where that phone is and where to send the call. Right? When your call comes into your cell phone provider, they have to find you first, every time. Right? So it hops over cell tower and then gets to you. And in terms of a phone system, like a PBX, that's just time. That's basically a lag in terms of connecting to a cell phone versus a landline. So you want a higher ring duration. All right. The extension box, you can have users with multiple extensions. The example that I think is why I found it interesting is the head of our sales team. He will take over the extension of any sales staff member who ends up leaving the company. So that way, any voicemails that are there, he can make sure they're handled by the rest of the sales staff, as well as any calls that come in, he can make sure are handled. So that way, we're not losing potential business. Phone numbers, users can have their own individual phone numbers. They can actually have multiple phone numbers. And again, you can add from spare or buy new numbers. And then we've got devices. So you can add devices directly to a user. You can add from spare. So these are devices you already have in the account that you haven't already assigned to somebody. And it'll show you a list there. Or you can add a new device. All right, so first one is SIP phone, right? So this is a physical VoIP phone that's on the desk, typically speaking. Could be mounted on a wall. You look for one of these manufacturers, and you click on it, and then you've got a particular model type, and then you fill out the fields at the bottom. So device name, whatever you want it to be, right? Bob's phone in this case. The MAC address is specific to that phone, right? The phone will have, usually they'll have a sticker on the back with MAC labeled on it. You can usually also get the MAC address from the phone's UI itself, right? You can click like menu status, and it'll show up. And then you would click on create device, and then you'll click on save changes. Now, in terms of the dashboard, you're done. On the phone, you need to get into the phone's web user interface, and you need to enter in a specific URL. This information is on our website, so virtualpbx.com. Also for support, select dash support, and you're looking for the file called auto provisioning phones. It'll have screenshots of where to look, and then the URL that you need to add. You click confirm or save or update depending on the phone. Basically, what it does is tells the phone, okay, get on the internet, go to this particular URL. Goes there, gets a config file from us, downloads it. Your phone's going to reboot a couple times, but after that, it should then be working on your user. It'll show up as green. You can make and receive calls, etc. Right, cell phone and landline are the same. You give it a device name, and then you put +1 area code and phone number. That +1 is important. You do need to add it. And then you would click on create device, and then save changes. Now, let me get to the advanced options here. So this is the default after a cell phone or landline is added. So when Dash sends a call to a cell phone or landline, right, your phone will ring, you will answer it typically, and then you'll hear a message, this is a forwarded call, please press 1. By pressing 1, you're telling the system, yes, you are there, and yes, you want to take this call, so that it connects it to you. Now, that always isn't the situation that you're dealing with, right? Sometimes you actually use one of these to say, to send callers to an automated answering service. Your automated answering services typically can't press 1, right? Just they're a machine or a program, so it doesn't know that it needs to send a tone. So what you would want to do in that situation is click here, allow use of cell phone's voicemail. What that does is you no longer have to press 1 to accept the call, right? We hear that pickup tone, we connect the call, your automated answering service then takes over, and your customer is handled by your automated answering service. Now, if this is your actual cell phone, and you have this checked, what can happen is your cell phone voicemail can pick up. We're still going to treat that like a connected call, so your inbound caller can end up on your personal cell phone's voicemail. Some people don't have a problem with that. Some people actually love that. Some people really, really hate it. So that's a personal preference. This next one here, keep original caller ID. So what this means is, so say customer Mary is calling in to the system, she gets to me. On my cell phone, I'm going to see Mary's actual phone number show up. And I probably, I may not recognize it because there's only so many phone numbers I remember. So maybe I let it go to voicemail because I'm like, I don't know who this is. And for all I know, it's one of those political calls telling me to vote for something. Now, if I uncheck this and click on Save Changes, what shows up on my phone instead is whatever phone number customer Mary called into, right? So one of the company numbers, hopefully I would recognize my own company's phone numbers. I'm like, oh, this is a work call. Let me answer it. All right, next up, we've got soft phone. Now, get a little warning message basically saying, hey, soft phone, you can be in a variety of locations, so please be aware about your E911. And by default, you are set up here for what we refer to as a third-party soft phone. Right? Now, you would use this for a couple things. One, to use a soft phone application that isn't from VirtualPBX, right? It used to be like X-Lite from Counterpath. I don't believe Counterpath may have changed that, at least that's what I've been told. But there are many companies out there that have soft phone applications that you can use. And yet you would use this SIP username, this SIP password, and the account realm to program that application. So that hopefully it will work with us. Likewise, when you looked at the SIP phones and you didn't see your manufacturer there, or you didn't see your particular model type, you can use these credentials to program the phone so you can at least make and receive calls from that phone. Now, if you want to use the VirtualPBX soft phone, what you do is right down here where it says use third-party application, and that's grayed out. If you click on it, it flips it. So now it says use VirtualPBX soft phone, or application, excuse me. You give it a device name, you click create device, and you click save changes. Now, since I did this on the user page, once I click save changes, this user will get an email saying, hey, your new soft phone is ready. Here's your login information, right? Your username, your password. If they're going to be using this on their Android phone or their iPhone, they can go to the applicable app store, look up VPBX phone, download that app, use those credentials, they can log in, and now they're making use of it. If you want to make use of the desktop soft phone app, there is a license fee associated with it. So you'd simply want to order it through the web store, and then you'll get the download links there for the actual application. Landline is the same. Web phone. So web phone, again, it's a type of soft phone, right? So you can be on a variety of devices. You click close. You give it a name. You click on create device. The web phone uses the same login information as your Dash login, right? So same email, same password, same account name. To access the web phone, you go to webphone.virtualpbx.net. It's going to ask you to log in. You log in. You're good to go. It will work on Firefox and Chrome. And as far as I know, it also used on the most recent version of Microsoft Edge because it uses the Chrome engine or code base. And so at least I've been able to get it to work on there when the new version of Chrome first came out. The web phone will work on desktop or laptop computers without any issues. On mobile devices, it may not. That's something our engineers are still tinkering with. I know on my Android phone with Chrome, I was able to get it to work. It was a little kind of scrunched looking, but it still worked. iOS has been more problematic, been pretty hit or miss. All right, let's go over to groups. All right, sorry about that. All right, so groups, shorthand for ring groups. This is a department or basically a group of people who answer calls about a similar topic. Now, ACDQs are a variant, I guess, of ring groups, or a more powerful version, and we'll get into those a bit later. But adding a group, pretty simple. You give it a name, you find an extension, you create an extension for it, or find one that you're not using, and then you click and drag people who you want to be in the group. And then you click on create group. Once you've created a group, you can click on the name. You can adjust the name, and then you've got dialing repeats. Basically what this is how many times can someone who wants to get to this group, how many times they can ring through it, right? So in this case, it's listed at 3, meaning they can ring everybody in that group 3 different times. They have 3 different attempts to connect with somebody. And that means everybody in the group, not just like oh, it rings Bob and then Mary and then Dave. No, it's all three of them get wrong 3 times, basically. Members, if you click on that, this shows the ring order. Now, across from distribute over here, this is the total ring time in that group. For groups, it defaults to 120 seconds, so 2 minutes. You can adjust that as you see fit. Speaking of distribute, if you click distribute, now I'm saying, hey, ring everybody in this order, right? So every call that comes in, gonna hit David first, then Denard, then Bob, then Jean, then Jan. Now, if I don't like that order, let's say I want Jan to get the calls first. Gonna move David down a little bit, and then we'll move Jean. We'll do something like that. But again, I want it to ring in this order. I just click distribute again. Now Jan's first. Now these are all sliders, so I can do something like that, for instance. So I can make everyone do what this is referred to, what I'm making it do is called blast ringing, meaning it rings everybody the full time at the same time, right? So there's no priority here. It's just everyone's phone is ringing. Whoever can get to it first picks up. I skipped something, didn't I? Yeah, I forgot user features. I'm so sorry. Let's go back. Okay, user features. Caller ID number. This only applies to a user who has their own phone number. But when you enable it, you select their phone number. That's the outbound phone number or outbound caller ID phone number. So whenever they pick up their VoIP phone and make an outbound call, that's the phone number that shows up on the caller ID. Call forwarding, basically you're saying, hey, I'm not going to be at my normal phone. Send calls that come to my user to this other device. Right, this other device should not be on the user already, right? So it should be their backup phone that they only use occasionally, usually like their cell phone. Now you have off and on, pretty self-explanatory. Failover mode is for your VoIP phone users. What this means is when the system detects that their VoIP phone is no longer registered, right? Then, and a call happens to come into user, the system will automatically send it to their forwarded device. So then, in this case, the cell phone will ring. They can still handle a customer call, and then afterwards they're going to find out, okay, why is my VoIP phone not ringing? Right? Did I lose internet connection? Did the dog pull out the cable as it ran by? You know, what have you. Hot desking. This is also a VoIP-related feature. This is for in an instance where you're where your staff is in a shared office environment and they can be at a different desk from day to day, meaning they can be at a different VoIP phone from day to day. So what hot desking does, it allows them to log into their particular VoIP phone that they're sitting at and then have the call directed to that phone. So today is Tuesday, I'm sitting at desk number 7. I sit down, I pick up the handset of the phone, I hit *11, that turns on hot desking. The system will ask me for my hot desk ID, which my admin would have set up for me. And then if chosen, the PIN number. Now, hot desk ID, I normally say just make it your extension numbers. That's the easiest thing to do. So then for the rest of that day, or for as long as I tell it to, calls that were looking for my user will end up at the phone I'm sitting at. So end of my day, I pick up the handset, I hit *12, that turns off hot desking on that phone. Tomorrow morning, I come into the office, someone's already at desk number 7. I'm like, well, that's kind of a bummer. Desk 32, you're my winner for today. I sit down, and again, I hit *11, hit my hot desk ID. Again, phone calls are going to come to me at that desk for that day. Voicemail, it's enabled because I created the voicemail box with the user. Fax box, you can set up individual fax boxes for your staff members. This would be typically could be in place of your main fax box number, or can be in addition to, up to you. But basically, you would enable it, and then you either select a phone number or by a number, or you can choose an extension. Now, the downside of choosing an extension is the person who's faxing to you, they have to dial one of your main numbers, listen for the greeting, then enter in the extension, and then hit start fax. I'm guessing there are quite a few people in the world who that just doesn't enter into their mind. They go to a fax machine, they enter the fax number, they hit send fax, and they either, if they're patient, they wait there to make sure it goes through. If they're impatient or busy, they walk off to go do something else, or go get their coffee because it's on the way to the coffee machine. Conference bridge. Again, you have to have that main conference bridge set up first and foremost, and then you can enable this on a user. Again, it uses your extension as default, and then you can set up the PIN number for that user. Follow Me is for people with multiple devices. And in fact, here, let's get this back to how you would see it when you first enable it. All right, so I just enabled Follow Me calling. However, calls, when they come to me, instead would go to voicemail right now because none of my phones are set to ring. So what I would do is I'm like, okay, I can choose which devices I want to ring, and then I can select the slider. Right up here is the total ring time. I can also click distribute. Then I can add in this third phone, and again, just like under the groups, right, I can change the order as I see fit. Music on hold. You can set up individual or custom music on hold for each user. Again, you can upload a file, .wav.mp3 recorded in mono under 1 megabyte, and then click on Save Changes. Excuse me. Customize call recording. Again, let me go back to the default. So when you enable it, this is how it looks, which means I'm not actually doing any kind of recording. So you need to decide which kind of calls you're recording. Inbound internal means coworker Bob called me. Right? Inbound external means customer called me. Outbound internal means I called Bob. And then outbound external means I called a customer. So most likely you get something like this, where you're recording the external calls, but you could also do this. And then you would click on Save Changes. And then Do Not Disturb means you're putting the user to not receive calls. Any inbound call would go to voicemail. All right, let's go back to, so we covered that. Sorry to be skipping around like that. I, for some reason, don't always remember about the group user features. Groups can have extensions. They can have multiple extensions. This is so your staff members can transfer calls to them, to the group. They can also have their own phone number or phone numbers. And that is one of the difference between groups and ACD queues. Queues can have one or the other, right? So they can have either an extension or a phone number, whereas groups can have both. The other advantage groups have is your users can make use of cell phones or landlines, whereas queues are restricted to using VoIP devices. All right, group features. Bring back. You can upload a music file. Again, .wav.mp3 recorded in mono. This essentially will play while your inbound customer is waiting for one of your staff members to pick up. Next action is if no one is able to pick up, what do you want the system to do with the call? Right. So if you enable it, I'm saying, hey, no one picks up. I'm sending them to the main voicemail box. But you can send it to a particular user. You can send it to another group. You can send it to a queue, a specific device, etc. allow call forward. If you enable it, you're letting your users make use of call forward, so they can forward phone calls to a different device. And then caller ID prepend. This is for your VoIP phone users. You can add either text or ID phone number or number indicator to let your staff members know what the call is about, right? This is useful if you have staff members who are in multiple groups or queues. So they know, oh, it's about this particular service or feature or what have you. All right, devices. Shows all your devices on the account. Green means they're connected / registered. Red means they're not. And then black means they're disabled. You can add devices here as well as under the user page. The main caveat is for the web phone and the VirtualPBX soft phone, you do want to add those on the user page specifically, but all these others you shouldn't have any issue adding here. And basically when you add them here, they become a spare device, meaning they're not assigned to anyone yet, you just got them in ahead of time. Voicemail boxes, shows all the voicemail boxes on the account. The user voicemail boxes, have a name associated under the user field. You can create your own. So for instance, like for a ring group, right, you just give it a name, a voicemail box number, and a PIN number. You would click on create new voicemail box. Once you've done that, you probably want to go over here. You can upload a greeting media file. So that way it has a voicemail box greeting. Now, every voicemail box has a choice of media and temporary, right? So the media one, that's their default greeting, right? Plays all the time. If you select a temporary file, that will supersede the normal one, meaning, hey, this is, vacation voicemail greeting. Then Bob comes back from vacation, I put this back to none, and then his default greeting starts playing automatically. Now, for manually created ones, you're also going to want to create, you can add recipients, so that way someone knows that a voicemail has gotten to a voicemail box. And then you've got these options, right? So after you have created a media file and recipients noted, then you can check already set up. And then the other ones are these two at the bottom. So delete after notification. So by default, all voicemails attach messages to an email, and the system sends out an email to the recipients. And that email is an attachment with the voicemail, right? They can just double click on it and listen to the MP3 file. And the reason you have delete after notification is voicemail boxes are restricted to 100 messages. And once they reach that, then anyone who tries to leave a message gets the mailbox is full, please try again later. If you have delete after notification is since the system by default is sending an email with that voicemail box, you can say, hey, just delete the message because someone already has it. I don't have to worry about I don't have to worry about the voicemail box getting full. Now, if for instance you prefer your staff to check their voicemails either over the phone or via the user portal, which we're going to get to, then you would uncheck both of those, delete after notification, and then attach messages to email. That's up to you. That's an option at that point. But then the voicemails will be kept on the system, so your staff can pick up their VoIP phone, hit *98, go right into the voicemail box and check it over the phone that way, or they can go to the user portal and check the voicemails. But no matter what, click on Save Changes. The Greetings Manager will show all your greetings on the account. Right, you've got the name, and then the source is recording, right? So it means you recorded over the phone. TTS, text-to-speech, and then uploaded file. You can download the file, so that way you can actually listen to it to see if it's still relevant or still needs to be on your system. And then the wrench icon allows you to rename the file, or you can delete it, right? So, oh, we don't need this. The call logs shows your call history on the account. So this is the calls that have come in today. You can click on them to get additional information. Usually it will tell you like what users calls ring to. In this case, is they basically called into the system and then hung up. If you click on the little hydrant here, it will create an email, so you can email support, and it'll give us details about the call. On a technical standpoint, I would ask when you do this, type in the body of that email what you experienced, right? Like say, system says the call was sent to me, but my phone didn't ring, or I had very bad call quality, right? It echoed or something like that. And again, you can go further back. And you can see here, it reached out to a device, etc. You can always download the file to, and under custom, you can change the date range. Feature codes, I've mentioned a couple of these. Basically, this dial pad shortcuts on your VoIP phones that you can use to make use of various features. These are also published on our website, so you don't actually have to log in to see them. And then let's go over here. So we've been on the dashboard. Next up is the ACD queues. So ACD stands for Automatic Call Distribution. There are two versions. There's ACD queues that we see here, and then ACD queues Pro. So the standard ACD queues are between $15 and $30 per month per queue, and the Pro version, I believe, is $99 per month per queue. If you're interested in those, I would say contact our services team to verify pricing, because there's some variety depending on your plan. All right, but you can add a new queue, and once you do, I'm going to click on these queues here. Here you give it a name, and then here's where you choose to either give it an extension number or give it a phone number. Over here is the routing strategy. So like in groups, you can blast everyone, you can do it, or you send it in a particular order. In queues, you can blast everyone. That is one of the options. But here we have round robin, meaning it's going to equalize to the users who are logged in over time. You also have least offers, meaning say Bob's been offered 20 calls, Mary's been offered 5 calls. The next call that comes in is going to go to Mary because she's had the least amount of offered calls. And then you've got least calls, which is the least amount of connected calls. So let's say in that scenario of 20 and 5 offered for Bob and Mary, but let's say Bob only spoke to 2 people, whereas Mary spoke to 5 people. The next call that comes in is going to go to Bob because he's only had 2 connected calls to Mary's 5. And then the other routing option is most idle, basically who's been waiting for a call the longest. All right, then we've got hold treatment. You've got, again, you can upload a file, .wav.mp3 recorded in mono. Now on Q's Pro, the hold treatment is, I guess, more flexible. So you can do a media file, but you can also announce the wait time or announce their position. You can have multiple sections of music too. So like you can start it off with, here's your approximate wait time, then have music play, right? Then here's your position, and then have music play again, either the same file or a different file, etc. Queue timeout. This is how much time people are allowed to wait on hold, measured in seconds. The queue call limit. Basically, you can limit the number of calls that are allowed to come into a queue. If you have 0, that means there's no limit. Timeout immediately if empty. Basically, this means if I have no staff members log in and I enable this, then I'm saying, hey, treat any incoming call as if they've timed out, meaning they hit this 3,600 second limit. Escalation queue means no one's picked up. I can send the callers to a second queue. And then escalation call flow after timeout. Basically, they hit this timeout here, or because no one was logged in, and then I can send them to a device of another queue. I can send to a person. I can send to a media file or voicemail box. Agent behavior, so agent recovery timeout. Basically, after they've been on a call, how much time do you give them before the system offers them another call, i.e., measured in seconds, so you can give them like 15 seconds so they can get a sip of water, or they can finish their notes on their CRM application. Force away on reject or missed. If this is enabled, means if your staff member misses a call, they're put in away status, meaning they can't take a call until they manually put themselves in ready. And then agent connect timeout. This is how much time we're offering a call to an agent. And then you would click on Save Changes. Now, if you click on Members, right, little person with a headset, this is how you determine who's available in your queues. Click on Manage Members. So on the left, these are all the people in your all your staff members who aren't already in the queues, whereas on the right, these are the people who are available for queues. Right, so and you just highlight them and then click as Add Member. Once someone is in a queue, so any staff member who's assigned to a queue will have ACD queues as an option, and then they would click on Begin Session. And then they can make themselves ready, or they can end the session. And now you'll see that at least some of these, assuming I'm in some of these, level 2. Right, so now I'm in the queue, ready for a call to come in. Little phone icon, I can select which devices to ring to. But again, on Queues and Queues Pro, you need to be using VoIP devices for the calls to work, or the call to be successfully offered to you. All right, blacklist. Oops. This allows you to create a list of phone numbers that you don't want to connect to your system, right? So someone keeps calling to harass you, you find the call already from the call logs, and then you would go here and put +1 area code and phone number, and then click Add, click on Save, go back to Settings, and then make sure it's under the selected field, and click Update. So now whenever that phone number tries to call any of my company phone numbers, they get a busy tone. All right, faxes. As an admin, you can get to any fax box on the account, and you can see what's going on with their faxing. You can also see their outbound faxes, if there is any. And then you can also see the email to fax logs, which can tell you, there'll be like a little eyeball icon over here that can give you the error message that your staff members may have been receiving. Monitor is not currently active on accounts, but what it does is allow you to see what call status people are on. Right, green means they're waiting for a call, blue means they're on an inbound call, red means they've marked away, yellow means they're on an external call, and gold means they're on recovery time from a queue call. The recording manager takes you to where your call recordings are stored, hosted by, I think that's hosted by AWS still, but it just requires your Dash login, and then you can look at the files or download them. Reports is in beta. As far as I know, I don't have access to that. This is a more powerful version of the call logs. If that's something you're interested, you definitely want to talk to our services team, and they can see about either getting you in the beta, or they might have more details about when it's going to be widely available. And I don't know if they have pricing information available on that or not. User portal. Every user has their own user portal. Right? They can check their voicemails. Now, this only would apply if you have delete after notification unchecked. That's why I don't have any here. They can view their own call history. They can see their fax box or their outbound or fax activity. A contacts list, this is all their Dash within your Dash account. So all the other users, the groups, etc. You're not able to add, like I couldn't add my mom or my sister or whatever to this contact list. The conference tab, this is where you would manage conferences as they're happening. Right, so you can invite other Dash users to it. You can lock it. You can mute everybody, unmute everybody. You can end the call. When you're actually in a conference, you can actually mute a specific participant or kick a particular participant. And then also you've got the moderator pin. You can also change the participant pin as well as these other options here. You basically playing tones when people come and go. Under settings and devices, this is where your users can set up their own call forwarding, so you don't have to do it for them every time. If you noticed on the feature codes, they can also do it from their VoIP phones. Oh, Mike, I'm sorry, I didn't see your question right away. If your main number tab doesn't have all the features, that means you may not have assigned a main number to the account yet. But yeah, for your call forwarding, you just save changes if you make any. Voicemails, any user or any admin can get to any voicemail box on the account. And again, you can, for any voicemail box that has voicemails in it, you can, listen to the voicemail, you can download it, you can delete it, etc. And then webhooks is basically allowing you to make use of APIs to link Dash to other software. If you're interested in that, you actually need to talk to our sales team, as they have like some white papers and some other resources that they can make available to you. I can go back to the dashboard. Sorry, this ran a little bit long today. Got other pings and whatnot. And Mike, I apologize for not seeing your question right away. I'll hang out here for a minute or so to see if anyone else has any questions. And if not, if you don't have any questions, feel free to go ahead and drop off. And if you do leave, then I say thank you for your time today. But as I said, I'll wait another couple minutes in case people have questions. All right, not seeing any other questions, I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. Again, thank you for your time today.